Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am joined this week, surprisingly, by Don Pizzette again. 2 weeks in a row. Don, how you doing?
It's almost like I'm supposed to be here or something. But
it's going for a record.
Doing great. You know, we have a ton of tech news going on out there in the real world. It was a hard week to pick the articles to talk about, but we also have a great guest. We have two guests today, so it's going to be an action-packed episode.
That is true. And it's also the day that we're recording this is Windows 11 Day. So happy Windows 11 Day to you, Daniel, who will not be downloading Windows 11 on any devices.
I actually do have a Windows machine at home. I like to run all the platforms, right? You gotta stay relevant.
What are you on, Windows 7 right now?
No. XP, thank you.
Oh, XP, congratulations. That's a good one, they say. It's one of the best.
That's why I haven't upgraded.
Why would you?
Yeah. If it ain't broke.
Yeah. All right, and we are also joined today by a special guest. We have Greg Edwards with us, who is the CEO of CryptoStopper. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Where are you joining us from?
So I am just north of Iowa City, Iowa.
That is lovely.
That's about as Iowa as you can get.
It is. It's Iowa. I live on about a 60-acre farm.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Oh, you got a baseball field.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Have to
That's further north.
They thought he was crazy. I've been there. That's the only place I've been in Iowa. I went to Dyersville, Iowa.
Field of Dreams. It's about 60 miles north of where I'm located.
Very cool.
I just now can think of the coal fire guys because I'm pretty sure that's where it was. It was in Iowa.
There was a coal fire?
No, coal fire is a company. It's a penetration testing company. And them boys was like, they were living in crazy
they
land.
Went into, they got arrested.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Get permission as a reminder.
They did. They had permission.
They did have permission.
What, aren't you supposed to notify like police or something?
They did.
They
This is why they
right.
thought they were going insane in the courtroom as the judge was like, y'all sit down, you're going to jail. And you're like, what the hell is happening?
And they weren't from Iowa. That was the thing.
Yeah.
That's why.
That was the problem.
Yeah, that's why. They weren't from Iowa.
Yeah, there's
I believe it's a
Minnesota
criminal
license
offense.
plates or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's FBI gets involved in, right? Crossing state lines.
Nailed it.
All right, well, let's get to know Greg a little bit more than just where he lives in our first segment, which is rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Greg, in this segment, we are going to rapidly fire questions at you. We'll rotate around through each of us hosts as we ask you questions about yourself and your organization. You'll see a timer appear on the right side of your screen. You'll have approximately 1 minute to answer each question. If you take too long, Peter will buzz you like this. There we go. And then we'll move on to the next question. We will start with, I should probably look at my list. We're starting with Peter.
It's me. When has it not been me?
I'm prepared for the day when we don't start with you, Peter.
Fair enough. All right, so I mentioned you are the CEO of CryptoStopper's. So can you give us a little bit of info about the company? I'm assuming you stop cryptos.
We stop ransomware.
That
So
makes more sense.
CryptoStopper is an anti-ransomware tool that we use deception technology to deploy bait files throughout a network, and then are monitoring for the action of encryption, and then kill that ransomware in the process.
Is that like a honeypot?
Similar to a honeypot files. Yep. We call them watcher files, but they're honeypot files.
I'm just showing off that I knew a term. So.
Now, I'm going to go a little bit off script on this one because I'm kind of curious. Like, if you're monitoring these files and one of them gets hit, certainly you're going to know about it. But like on average, some data has to get encrypted before they hit that file, right? They don't start with that one.
Yeah, so we call it our damage reduction. I mean, if CryptoStopper is not installed and ransomware is running unabated, it's going to encrypt everything. And so typically 5 to 10 files are also hit in the attack.
Oh, that's pretty minimal. Yeah. All right, let me get to my real question. Then I was just curious. All right, now I know that in addition to being CEO of CryptoStopper, you also run an MSP. I worked for an MSP years and years ago. I couldn't imagine holding down two jobs. How do you find time to do both of those things?
Yeah, this actually is the second SaaS company that I've started out of needs that I identified within the MSP. And so the MSP I've owned for over 20 years now. I started it when I was 24 and mostly runs on its own. So I'm an absentee owner of that and able to do both successfully. And this is the second SaaS company that I've started out of the MSP.
Man. I get real nervous when I'm speaking to my betters, so let me just get straight to my question here. How the heck does CryptoStopper guarantee that, that would protect a company against ransomware?
Yeah, so the way that our system is deployed, and that guarantee is it's a money back guarantee. It's not, we can't guarantee we're gonna stop every new way, but the way that CryptoStopper works is that it's on the network, and when files start getting encrypted, we see that encryption and stop it.
I'm glad you clarified that, because anyone that guarantees they can stop all ransomware is a liar. It's a great way. It's a great way to weed out. Yeah,
I 100% guarantee you're right.
That's what the judge told him when he had to take his business down and liquefy.
All right, so I'm curious. We hear about new attacks every single day. I mean, you can just go on any website and see just a list of all the different things that were attacked. And I know Daniel kind of harps each week on the fact that IT budgets tend to be very reactive, and people aren't putting money towards something until a problem happens. Have you seen that change at all? Or why do you think that is that people are still like that?
Yeah, so I see that starting to change, but the reason I think is because people just think it's not going to happen to us. And that is changing. I actually had a mentor of mine when I first started CryptoStopper say, well, does anyone even know what ransomware is or that they need it? And I said, no, they don't, but the attackers are going to educate them very quickly. And unfortunately, that's become even more true than I expected.
Yeah, for a lot of businesses, they have to spend marketing dollars to let people know about a problem. But for you, you're kind of fortunate in that it's getting tons of media coverage right now. Ransomware has turned into a huge ordeal.
It has. And I mean, it is unfortunate that everything that I was expecting would happen several years ago has happened.
Yeah, it's like, congratulations to you that all these companies have been attacked. That's fantastic. All right, so I understand that you built your own plane. And so, I mean, I feel like I have a series of questions there. For example, other people, professionals, build them. You can buy one of those. Why didn't you start there?
That's not as much fun.
Have you convinced anyone to get in this plane with you?
I have. My wife, who is not a thrill seeker at all, flies with me regularly.
What is this, like an ultralight, or
why are you trying to kill your wife? That's the real question.
It's a 2-passenger. It's a Lancer is the type of plane that it is. So it comes as a what they call a fast build kit, and you essentially build it from the ground up. And it is a very, I say safe. I wouldn't fly it if I didn't think it was safe. But it's a 2-passenger airplane, goes about 230 miles an hour.
Wow. It's like a carnival ride. They put it together real fast. You get on.
Please sign here.
Yeah.
I remember in the back of Mad Magazine as a kid, they had you could build your own hovercraft out of like a vacuum engine. So I assume it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Sort of
very
like that.
similar.
Yeah.
Pretty similar.
I was picturing one thing in my head, but I just pulled up the Lancer website, and they actually look really cool. They look like like a Piper Cub or something, a small plane.
You got me. I'm checking it out.
It was rated one of the top 10 sexiest planes ever made
by Sexy
that
Planes
list
magazine.
Doesn't exist. Yeah.
So I will admit, it looks like a real plane.
Yeah,
it comes preloaded with C4 in the engine now. So
very, very much is a real plane.
Do you have the Mako or the Barracuda?
Oh yeah. Ooh, Barracuda.
Ooh, it's actually a Lancer 360. Which probably isn't in current production. It's about.
That's right. After that settlement,
a little over 10 years. 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. That is thrill seeking.
That's very cool. Yeah, that is safer. I was thinking one of those ultralights where it's like you could just fall out of the side.
Who was it that worked with us that used to build gyrocopters and he crashed it? Right?
Oh.
You remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, Gerald was telling me about it.
Why
Remember
are you
Gerald?
Laughing?
Because it's weird that it's like
it is weird.
It came out here, but he would like take everybody up, and they're supposed to be safe. He was like he would go up and turn the engines off because you can just. That did not work. Because they're supposed to.
Not a good idea.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
I wouldn't do that with my vacuum-powered hoverboard.
Two inches off.
Yeah, I'm 2 inches off the ground. I'm not doing that. No,
you just hear Peter screaming.
Yeah. All right, my floors are filthy too.
Yeah.
I took the vacuum
That's
all
not
apart.
like. Dirty floors.
All right. Well, let's talk about. I mentioned that we have these ransomware attacks that happen all the time, and normally it's kind of a pretty standard formula that we see. But we're seeing some cases now that are actually kind of getting the judicial system involved. And there's one that we want to talk about here. So this is an article from NBCnews.com. This actually says a baby died because of a ransomware attack on a hospital, according to a suit. The filing is the first credible public claim that someone's death was caused, at least in part, by hackers who remotely shut down a hospital's computer. And so I know we look at a lot of ransomware as purely a financial play, and hospitals have a lot of money, so that makes them a target. But we've talked about kind of the different attacks that have happened during COVID that have affected hospitals and had people kind of resorting back to pen and paper, the kind of thing. But is this is the first credible public claim? But have you seen other attacks like this that are more attacking people, not just going out and looking for money?
Yeah, well, and the intent of this attack wasn't to attack; it purely was financially motivated.
Okay.
But as a result of the attack, it shut down all the monitoring system. And this was in a birthing center. So a baby was born, that the monitoring, the claim is that they weren't monitoring closely enough because of the ransomware attack, because it took the monitors down. And so that contributed to the death.
So it's, again, kind of goes back to the IoT devices that we've seen that are those harder to protect?
Well, they're not necessarily harder to protect. And in this case, it wasn't specifically IoT devices. It was the computer that was actually running the monitors that put the big screens up. And that's what was down. And so that they weren't seeing the information. But IoT devices they're just as hard to secure. The thing with IoT, and you guys probably have talked about this before, is that there just aren't good standards within pure IoT, and so that does make it more difficult, but not from the standpoint of that it's any different.
Yeah, and I could totally see how this happened. My youngest son was in the NICU for 5 months, and so we got a chance to really learn how that worked. And they have monitoring sensors for like blood oxygen levels and things on all the babies. And they have central nursing stations where
they're watching multiple rooms from one hub.
One screen. And so if a baby stops breathing, they can see it on that screen. But if they don't have that screen, they've got to walk around and check each kind of crib individually. And that's just not something they can do in a timely manner. So I could totally see how this led to a death. And I know I've said several times on the podcast over the last couple of years that I've been really frustrated in the lack of, especially the U.S. government, but really governments in general, doing anything to stop ransomware, that it has just been growing unabated for years now. And we're starting to see little baby steps kind of from these organizations to help prevent it, stop it from coming out and impacting people like it is. But I don't think we really saw any true activity until it hit the pipeline. Like until it started hitting our utilities, that's where it really seemed to make a difference. And Greg, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think they're actually going to take action now?
Well, the problem is that who do they take action against? So a lot of these ransomware attackers are in countries that, for example, in Russia, where it's completely legal for a Russian citizen to start and run a ransomware business and attack, as long as they don't attack anyone within Russia, it is completely legal. So while I think there is much more talk, and I think that if we have a coalition of nations that come together, that we may be able to have something done, but until attacking companies with ransomware is illegal and punishable in every single country in the world, I don't see big changes happening.
They used to have a term called extreme rendition, and that's how they took care of problems like that.
Right. There's too many of them.
And I bet that dad who lost his daughter would be all about that at this point in time, as a father of two daughters myself.
Yeah, Liam Neeson thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, from what I read about that, that the parents are suing the hospital because they knew they were under a ransomware attack. They knew that they had systems that were down, and they still accepted patients and did not inform them. And that was the problem. And due to those monitoring systems, they were unable to detect that the baby had the umbilical cord wrapped around their head during delivery, and the baby lost oxygen, caused brain damage, and then 9 months later the baby died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like this string of events that occurred, all because they just didn't say, hey, you might want to go down the street right now to a different hospital.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to Don's
where's the
point.
policy that says if we're under a ransomware attack or any kind of like impact to our systems that might cause or lead to someone's death or pain and suffering, we should be pushing people away from coming to us at this point.
You know, I wonder if this is something that I'm thinking doctors, right?
Yeah.
So if a doctor hears, oh, the computer's down, I think most doctors would probably say, well, I'm still a doctor. I can still do this stuff. I don't need a computer. And I wonder if other businesses, like get out of medicine, right?
Yeah.
Think about like a bank. All right, well, if the computers go down in a bank, it's a problem, but they can still do paper deposits and stuff. So maybe they just feel like, well, we can still operate well enough.
Except someone died.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, we talk a lot about with ransomware. What is the IT plan? What do we have in place to get backups restored and things like that? But not about what is the plan and the playbook for the other workers. Do we have something in place that says, okay, now if we have this happen, you have to do rounds every 5 minutes. You have to do is there that plan of attack, and do enough companies have those things in place?
And I would
question.
say at this point, definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's evident from this one, and probably more and more will. Think of ransomware as not just an IT thing, but something that obviously, when it has that impact on the entire business. Because I think you said earlier, I know one of these articles did as well, that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Well, and kind of going back to your statement, Don, like they feel, okay, I can still do my job well enough, right? And then it comes down to, but I didn't have the option. You didn't tell me.
Yeah.
You didn't inform me and give me the freedom to choose whether I thought that was good enough or not. And that's the problem, I think.
Yeah, they should have a business continuity plan.
Right.
So when a disaster occurs, this certainly counts as a disaster, then what are the check marks that say what leads to stopping admitting patients or whatever? So, but, I like what Greg was saying earlier with CryptoStopper, that if ransomware hits, right, so it doesn't stop the ransomware. It's going to find some way to get in, right? But when it hits those special files, it stops it. So now you're just talking about restoring a handful of files that got hit, as opposed to having to restore entire systems. Like that would help a lot.
Yeah, and monitoring systems, you think they would be easily reverted back to a working state through some sort of backup. I mean, it's just a monitor. It doesn't like it's it's like recording data.
Hadn't thought about that. Like,
Right.
Why have writable file system at all on that?
Right.
So Greg, if people want to learn more about CryptoStopper, what's the URL? Where do we go to find out?
Yeah, so the URL is getcryptostopper.com, and can find all of the information on how to contact us there. We sell exclusively through managed service provider resellers, and so if you are a client of an MSP, ask them to check it out, or if you're an MSP, sign up and start selling CryptoStopper with us.
Very cool. And so you guys have some events coming up. Was it DattoCon?
Yeah, so DattoCon is the next big one, actually next week. It was planned to be in Seattle, and they've gone completely virtual now.
Are you doing any of the IT Nation or the ConnectWise ones?
So we've done IT Nation, we've done ASCII events, and those are ongoing.
Very cool. Yeah, I think we'll be at the IT Nation Connect a little bit later this year, so maybe we will see you guys there.
Yeah.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and showing us. This is a cool project, and it's a little different way of everyone else that we talk to seems to be, we're going to stop the attack, before it gets in, but
Yeah, well, and when you think about all of the malware, 5 years ago, if a malware attack got through, you just did the cleanup. Well, now most of those malware that are still getting through are ransomware.
Yeah, and they're not just contacting you; they're contacting your customers. They're contacting anyone affected and trying to get money from all sides.
Right.
So, right. Good for them. All right, thank you so much, Greg. And stay tuned, everybody. We're going to come back after a quick break and talk with a new edutainer here at ITProTV. So that's coming up right after this break on Technado with Don Pizzette.
I'm James Packer. I'm the General Manager of Kirk ISS based in the Cayman Islands. I used ITProTV extensively in my last place. It grew very well, helped upskill the team. I had 110 engineers in the field, and we had dozens of IT Pro accounts with the guys training, and last year alone they passed over 40 certs by using the online training. I think I can safely say without ITProTV I wouldn't be where I was today, because I only got this job on the back of the qualifications I have.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Greg for joining us. But we're doing something, I think this might be the first time we've ever done rapid fire questions 2 times in the same episode, because we are joined by brand new ITProTV edutainer Lauren Deal. Lauren, how you doing today?
Excellent. This is such an honor to be on Technado with all of you.
She doesn't know much about Technado.
I was going to say, I don't know how to take that. You being sarcastic? Is this what's happening?
No, I really had to gear up.
Yeah, she's been binging episodes for the last 2 weeks. All right, well, let's get to know Lauren in this second bonus segment of Rapid Fire Questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, we already know all the rules, so we'll just jump right in, put that 5 minutes up on the there it is on the clock there, and get started. So, Lauren, I understand this is not your first time in front of a camera. I don't mean just this episode, but in general working here. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you've been up to.
Originally, I'm from a home shopping network. I sold jewelry 24 hours a day, and there were stints where I was on air between 2 to almost 6 hours. And so comfortable in front of the camera, but always learning something new. So this is a new adventure for me. Thanks for teaching me something new.
Yeah, you get breaks here.
Such a luxury.
Now, I know you just started, but you've already been working with a couple of the other edutainers here. What are some of the courses that you're going to be filming with us?
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been diving in already, checking out ITProTV and that side of the spectrum, but I'm going to be starting off on the audit side. And so learning everything audit, so that's where you can find me.
All right. Hosts here inevitably learn a lot about IT when you start actually working with us on the ITProTV side of things. And what are you, I'm just kind of curious, what are you looking forward to learning about when it comes to IT?
Well, I think that IT is always a growing and changing environment. So what you learn one week might be changing the next. And so I think it's an everlasting journey. I like to think I'm a lifelong learner. So starting with day one and moving forward, I'm open. So I'll just leave it at that.
It's an urban legend.
All things.
So she'll be our new Google Cloud expert. Someone has to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Put me in, coach.
All right. So I understand that you're also no stranger to podcasts, that you actually have a podcast of your own. So what's that all about?
I actually have a podcast called The Female Phoenix. It's spelled with a PH to be punny, but it's about women's empowerment. It's basically turning our mess into a message and our struggles into strength. And I think that during 2020 and beyond, we're all going through something. And so it's nice to hear that someone has come out on the other end and can offer some inspiration.
That's cool. Did you start it during the pandemic?
I did. I started it actually a year ago, about a week ago.
Oh, wow. Cool. So is it you, or do you have guests on as well?
I interview women, but I've also done some solo episodes as well. We have everyone from the girl next door all the way up to Mickey Guyton, who is a Grammy-nominated country singer.
All right.
Wow. Probably better ratings than Technado.
I'm sure. I'm sure. All right, so I know this was a big move for you. We're down here in Florida, for those that don't know, and you came all the way from Pennsylvania. So I'm curious, two-part question here. Mm-hmm. What are you most looking forward to in Florida, and what are you going to miss most about Pennsylvania?
Ooh, that is tough. So all of my Pennsylvania friends turn away. Mm-hmm. I loved Pennsylvania. That's where I was born and raised. But they're getting snow in the next upcoming months, and I decided to get out of there as soon as possible. I love Florida because of the warm weather, but also it feels like summer all year round.
Yeah, but when it's actually summer, it feels like hell.
That's when you live in the pool.
Yeah, nothing like triple digits with like triple digit humidity.
Yeah. See, I was hoping you were going to say like cheesesteaks or.
Yeah.
Most looking forward to wrestling an alligator.
Sports, I don't know. But no, the sports down here are phenomenal.
Go local sports team.
Were you Western Pennsylvania or Eastern? So Philly or what would it be? Eagles or Steelers?
I was closer to the Eagles. I was in Lancaster, which is going to open up a whole new can of worms. I swear I'm not Amish.
Well,
she's Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yeah, you are in Cameron here. So. Yeah. All right.
You are under oath.
Yeah.
My buggy's out back, so.
Did we not do the
It's a sweet ride, by the way.
All right, well, Lauren.
Carrots.
Yeah. We're looking forward to seeing you on some new shows, and like we said, the kind of the audit courses first. So over for ITProTV and those kinds of things. But we're excited to have you, and thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to follow along with the rest of your Technado journey today.
Fantastic. Well, we do have a great journey ahead with a lot of news to get to. So another really quick break, then we'll be right back with that on Technado with Don Pizzette.
So you've tried online IT training, but it's boring, out of date, and pricey.
Well, ITProTV is always engaging, always fresh, and plans start at just $29 a month. It's online IT training that doesn't suck. Start today at ITPro.tv.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Lauren Deal for joining us as well. Very excited to have her as part of the team, and also very excited to talk about the news this week. So our first article is a big one that's kind of been dominating the news the last couple of days. This is from Cloudflare's blog, Understanding How Facebook Disappeared from the Internet. Because we lost yesterday, what was it, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, I think.
WhatsApp was a part of it,
which is
yeah.
a big part of it because that's a lot of communication for developing nations and things. So how did this happen, Don?
Yep. So, it was really interesting. I picked, there were a ton of articles on this. I picked Cloudflare's because theirs was kind of the neatest from a perspective of figuring out what the problem was. Facebook has not actually told us what the definitive issue was. But basically, their BGP routes, the Border Gateway Protocol that manages all internet routing, their BGP routes pulled the advertisement for their networks that controlled Facebook's DNS servers. And so once those went offline, you then lost all of Facebook's properties, which included Instagram, WhatsApp, and a couple of other things that were a pretty big deal. And because of this type of problem, it's hard to... Okay, let me back up a little bit. It's easy to make a mistake in BGP, super easy. And then that mistake replicates out across the world fairly quickly, so it's a big deal. It's fairly hard to fix a mistake in BGP, and that's what Facebook learned with their downtime, which in most areas ended up being over 5 hours, which is ridiculous for what is probably one of the most well-funded IT infrastructures in the entire world. To have an outage like that is just insane. So Cloudflare showed what it looked like from the outside. Like they could see the moment the BGP routes were pulled, and they thought the problem might be on their end because they have that managed DNS, the 1.1.1.1, where it wasn't able to look up Facebook. They thought their system was broken, but then they were able to figure that out pretty quickly, so they wrote up all the research they did. But it was really interesting to see how even if you're stuffing billions of dollars of investment into your IT infrastructure, a simple mistake like this can take all of your properties offline.
Now, are we sure that the internet just wasn't trying to correct itself?
It's trying to heal.
Yeah,
There was a tweet that said, it was very funny. It said, this concludes the MIT sociological study.
I actually brought up my favorite tweet that I saw yesterday. It said, people making jokes about the Facebook services going down make me sick. Anyone who was using an Oculus headset at the time is currently trapped in virtual reality. And if they die there, they die in real life.
Oh, that's funny.
People didn't eat it up. And Twitter and what was the other platform? There were 2 social media platforms that got a huge boost.
Yeah, probably Reddit.
Sure. Yeah.
Probably
Not
Reddit.
LinkedIn.
But they got a huge boost because people lost Instagram and Facebook, and so they had to go somewhere, and Twitter really benefited.
Snapchat.
Oh,
TikTok,
bummer.
your favorite?
They're next
TikTok,
then, right?
yeah.
Could have been TikTok. They're next, yeah.
Actually, it was Snapchat. Snapchat is part of the properties,
That's
aren't
still
they?
a thing?
Are they part of that? I'm not sure.
Nah, I don't know.
But I do know that there were a lot of conspiracy theories around this too. So I'm curious. Or I was glad to hear kind of your explanation because there's a Facebook whistleblower testifying in front of Congress this week as well. And
Great
so,
timing.
This hasn't been an epic week for
not-
Facebook.
Yeah, I've got a friend who works at Facebook, and I haven't called this week. I'm giving.
They're
some
probably a
space.
little busy.
Well, and there's that shareholder lawsuit that the company spent over $1 billion to protect Mark Zuckerberg from a lawsuit. Like,
Is that
there's-
wrong? Should they not have done that?
There's several things that are going on. Yeah, it's certainly bad timing for them. But on a positive note, the next time you or your friend have an outage at your workplace and your boss asks you why you couldn't prevent it, let them know that even if you had billions of dollars in your budget, this type of outage could have happened.
That's true.
Can happen to anybody. Well, I'll be curious if we do a Deja News in the future to talk about when Facebook released their actual, post-mortem.
And they probably will because this wasn't a hack, right? So it wasn't that somebody broke into the system, and that's where they start hiding the details because there's litigation. So in this case, I'd be surprised if they didn't just come clean and say like, well, we know what it'll be. It'll be some kind of continuous, like a CI/CD tool or an automation tool. So they automated some rule to push out a router config and botched it across the board. And but we'll see.
Well, as I learned watching some of that whistleblower testimony today, Facebook is nothing if not transparent. So I'm sure we will get all
Fact.
of the answers. Yes, super fact. All right, let's take a look at our next article that comes to us from tomshardware.com. Backblaze data shows SSDs failing almost as often as hard drives. And so I think, like a lot of people, I just assumed that these are more reliable. There's less moving parts, so that means they're going to fail at a much lower rate. But it turns out that is not the case. So what's making them fail? So
it's interesting, Peter. This will be one of the few times that I say it, but prior to reading this, I was totally in line with you on this one. When you think about a spinning hard drive, there's a motor in there, like it's moving an arm back and forth. That's certainly going to wear out over time. SSDs are solid state. They don't have those moving parts. You would think that they would last a lot longer. Well, SSDs did have their problems where you can only write to them so many times, but that is usually in the millions, and you have just a long window of time before that happens. So, like for me, and maybe I'll pull the group here because you guys all use SSDs. I've never had an SSD fail.
I'm trying to. I want to say no. I've never had one fail. Yep. Well, no, that's not true. I have had SSD failed in real life land, but it was just like a bad batch or whatever, right? It wasn't like we wore it out.
So it was like dead on arrival? Or?
No, it lasted for like a few weeks or whatever, and then it would die.
That sounds like a fail.
Like, that's weird. Controller board go out on it or something like that.
Yeah.
And
well, I think my oldest SSD is about 5 years old, and it's still running fine and doing great. I have many others that I've replaced. It's newer technology.
Well, you better get a good backup, son.
Well, so I do back up my stuff, but at the same time, I was thinking like Peter, like, well, I'm backing it up, but that's just in case I accidentally delete some files. The disk's just going to last forever.
That sounds like something you say in a performance review. Well, I'm sorry, I was thinking like Peter, and that's why it went wrong.
And when I say like Peter, I mean like the common person. This is, I think, what most people feel is that SSDs are a lot more reliable. So what they found at Backblaze, though, was that, hey, components fail over time. That electronic components don't last forever.
Entropy.
And when they worked out the average, they were losing 1.38% of their spinning disks every year. And for SSDs, it was 1.05%. So both of them, just over that 1% mark, which, 1 out of 99 drives a year, that's not, or 1 out of 100. If
1 out of 100.
I'm good at math.
Yeah. Public school, ladies and gentlemen, right there.
Well, that's cool. That that's more of a testament to maybe how good spinning disks actually were, and we didn't give them.
Hey, they're a heck of a lot cheaper. For now.
It's like the birthday paradox, right? You just, this can't be. But it is, statistically.
Yeah.
True.
Math. All right, let's take a look at our next article, which comes to us from TheVerge.com. Microsoft announces Office 2021 features and pricing. And Office 2021 arrived on October 5th. So that's the same day that Windows 11 rolled out, correct?
Everybody's talking about Windows 11, so it's easy to overlook this release of Office. Also, it's easy to overlook this release because Microsoft's been pushing everybody to Microsoft 365, the subscription-based service. If you're a Microsoft 365 subscriber, you don't get big versions of Office. You get little updates all year long, so you have the latest and greatest features. But every few years, Microsoft takes a snapshot of that subscription package and turns it into a standalone one-time pay product. The only reason they do it is because the military and the government. They require these one-time, it's capital expenditures versus like CapEx versus OpEx, all that mess. Accountants worry about that stuff. But anyhow, they are putting the stamp on the current latest version of this pay once type product, which is Office 2021. Not a whole lot of crazy new features in here. So the first main thing is that the user interface is updated to look like Windows 11. It's a little more rounded. It has open document format support, ODF. To be clear, it's had ODF support, but it's ODF 1.3. So especially in European nations where they may require you to store documents in an open format, having ODF 1.3 support is pretty handy. And then as far as the price, it is $150 for a student or home user and $250 for a business user. And that's it. You pay that price and you're not paying a subscription like you would with Office 365, which actually ends up being cheaper, the subscription.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I wasn't aware of that process that they went through for making, which makes a lot of sense. Are they taking a snapshot of where the product is right now or of where their future development is, and then we'll catch up on the people in Office 365?
So they actually took this snapshot like 3 months ago.
Okay.
So this is what Office 365 looked like 3 months ago. But now, once they grab that snapshot, they will maintain it with bug fixes and security updates for, I believe it's 4 or 5 years. It's a decent window.
Okay.
I feel like I understand the reasons that the government or military would want some sort of standalone system for this, but why would I, as a consumer, want to, subject my computer to more Microsoft bloatware?
Well, I'll tell you, if you need Microsoft Office, there's two ways to get it, right? So you can subscribe,
And
or
save.
you can buy this. And yeah, if you've looked, like as a home user, for $99 a year, you get either 5 or 6 seats of Office 365.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and you can install the full Office suite on the computers, and off you
just
go.
log in with your browser, and hey, look at us.
So that's what you're going to see most people push towards.
So, but why would somebody want this as a consumer? Like, why are people opting for it?
So I can think of a few reasons. College, where you're trying to use like your what's it called, the student. Not student loans, but students get grants and scholarships and things, and they can go to the bookstore and buy things at the bookstore. Well, you'd be able to buy this version of Office
Physically
at the
off the
bookstore.
shelf, yeah.
Right. And so
Gotcha.
that's one example where somebody would want it. Or if you want to be offline, right? Because the subscription one checks in. You got to log in with that
there's a
Office
lot of
account.
that, yep.
This can go offline.
Okay.
That's a very good point. Are there options for the government of like a private cloud kind of setup or something where you could have basically the features of 365 but not be putting the information out there publicly?
There
Not
is.
publicly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, Amazon and Microsoft both have a dedicated like government part of their cloud services, but not every government agency has accepted that. Many still run the old way, which is entirely in-house software.
green screen terminals.
Yeah, maybe not that old.
The whole deal.
Amber screen.
Amber. Oh, that's nice. That's a lot easier.
It was
on
the
eyes.
upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next article, we're actually looking back at something that we've talked about a little bit recently. So this is Deja News.
Deja News.
All right, so this one comes to us from slashdot.org. Millions experience browser problems after long-anticipated expiration of Let's Encrypt certificate. And my takeaway here is that if people had just listened to Don last week...
I like how the article says, long anticipated.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't see this coming or something.
Who knew? Who knew that this could be a problem?
What's
So,
happening?
Don, did you... I know we said what could happen.
Sure.
Is it as bad as we thought?
Well, so the reason I wanted to revisit this is I did say that last week, is that if you had like an older mobile device and you couldn't update your root certificates, you were going to have a problem, right? But there were actually additional problems even beyond that if you were on the latest and greatest. I was actually affected by some of this, and I totally knew about the problem. But not my fault. My client, my software,
Likely
my
story.
systems were all fine. So what happened, though, is that many cloud services have complex back-end infrastructure. And some of them, while their front end or like my web browser might trust the new certificate and the front end might have the new certificate, on the back end, like on a database connection or something internally in a microservice architecture, might still be using one of these old certificates that's tied to the old CA that's no longer trusted. And so many websites and online services actually started to have problems affecting millions of people around the globe, which is actually a really small amount when you think about how many people are on the planet. But some of the examples they gave, Shopify, Rocket League, which is a video game. You weren't able to get into online matches because their matchmaking service on the back end was relying on some of these older certificates. But for me, and I don't know if this affected you guys or not, but Monday.com, which is how we do all our studio booking, that I was not able to log into Monday.com the other day.
I just thought that's how it worked.
Yeah. Oh, no, I can't do my job.
Yeah.
And it was another one where their front end was fine, but their back end was leveraging some of these certificates. So those companies are scrambling to fix it. It's not like I was affected, but it wasn't anything I could do about it. It was all this other service.
Are we sure? Are we sure this wasn't Facebook's problem?
Maybe.
Do we know? No, this
owns
happened, though.
Let's
What was the date on this? The end of the month? This was like October 1st?
Yeah. This would have been all really the end of September. So technically October 1st was the first day of the new world.
Was the Y2K day?
Yeah.
They didn't come up with a cool, fun name for this.
Well, this type of problem is going to happen more and more frequently because in the past, we used to buy certificates for 3 years, right? Or, then it kind of got to 2 years and 1 year. But with Let's Encrypt, you do 90-day certificates, three months. And so certificates are constantly rotating. And when people do microservice design, like when you're doing Docker containers up in the cloud, you use a lot of certificates and you've got to manage all of that. And that's why services like with AWS, they actually have a certificate manager where they just handle all of it for you. And that's a really valuable service if you want to avoid problems like these.
Which you should. You should want to avoid problems like that. All right, speaking of problems, that's a great segue into our next segment, which is Who Got Pwned?
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Yeah!
All right, this one comes to us from, let's see, this is the register.com. Anonymous, and not anonymous like some random person, but anonymous, the group, says, we've leaked disks, images stolen from far-right friendly web host Epik. That's Epik. And the latest data dump also apparently contains a wide range of passwords and API tokens.
Yeah, this is,
Sorry.
If you're not familiar with Epik, as various websites and social media sites began blocking ultra right-wing conservatives and conspiracy theories, they would get kind of driven to other platforms that gave them the ability to talk unfiltered. Epik was one of those platforms.
It was like Parler, right? When they were shut down, that they moved to Epik, wasn't
yes,
it? Okay.
Yep. And hackers breached Epik. This actually happened weeks ago. We didn't cover it here because, honestly, there's a breach a day for tons of sites, and I didn't want to get political
Let me pull
about
my
it.
phone up real quick.
Yeah.
Who is now breached this moment in
Somebody's
time?
probably been breached since we started filming
Yeah,
this
yeah.
episode. So, it's not that big of a deal. But where this became significant, the reason I wanted to bring it up today was that Epik's CEO had come out and said, they feel like attackers were able to intercept a backup that was in transmit, and so they may have gotten some data, but they don't know how much yet. It's not a big deal, right? It's stay calm. Well, now we have some of their information is being leaked out on the dark web that you can go and access, that is including images, disk-level images of their server infrastructure, which to me makes this like the deepest breach you could possibly have. Like, Daniel, you deal with this stuff. Like, is there a bigger win than that?
Man, I'm just like surprised that they were able to use DD correctly. I mean, are they sure it's not their own disks that they're sticking DD gets you every time?
So, Don, does this prove, though, that what they said before is inaccurate?
Wrong. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. So what's most likely happened here, and again, they're not feeding us the details because they probably don't know them themselves, but this usually means that the attackers were able to escape a virtual machine to get to the host, or were able to target a virtualization host specifically to then be able to access the disk images right from there. And once you have the disk images, you can download those, boot them up on your own infrastructure, and take your time wandering through all of the data. You could rebuild the whole infrastructure. That's why they got somewhere around, according to the register, 59 different API keys for all sorts of things.
That seems like a lot.
That's the keys of the kingdom.
Yeah.
So Epik wasn't just breached; it was like total 100%. There is no other information that could have been gotten.
If you were going to say anybody got pwned or owned, Epik has felt that sting.
This is the record.
Gotcha.
In fact, I'm trying to think of how it could be worse. The only way it could be worse, and this may still happen, is if Anonymous transferred ownership of the company over to Anonymous. And they've got the data to do it now.
We're running payroll.
Yeah.
We're doing everything.
The whole 9 yards.
Wow. Yeah, you actually work, your pay stub now says Anonymous. How did that happen?
Weird. I mean, they got good benefits.
Free masks.
Well, I think you need to understand the health benefits. Like, lizard people have different
It's true.
medical conditions.
Yeah.
And
I would just like to point out that Don is personally attacking Anonymous and not Technado as a group.
Not Technado. That's right. Don hates
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
The lizard people are like
That's the
QAnon,
QAnon
right?
stuff,
That would
yeah.
be.
Oh, I thought you were saying that,
Epic.
No.
Anonymous is run by lizard people.
No,
You're
no.
not. You're
Well,
saying
they might be. Ooh, that would be the
It'd be
twist right
funny
there.
is if
Attack
Anonymous, somebody
themselves.
in the Anonymous group was like, "Did you guys see this QAnon stuff?" And then one of the Guy Fawkes masks comes off and it's a lizard person. Oh shit!
goes full circle.
Black screen.
Yeah. So it said groups like the Proud Boys and the QAnon crowd were affected by this. So
Yep.
I imagine you'll be seeing a lot. Well, there was actually someone that was actually fired from this already. That it was a realtor down in South Florida here because he was seen to have registered domains like the Holocaust is fake and things like that. And as part of this leak, and was actually fired. So we're actually seeing repercussions.
I just know we've been doing this Who Got Pwned segment for a long time, and this really is like the record setter of there's really not much more beyond this. There's no extra data they could have gotten. They got everything.
I want to give you I went down a rabbit hole on this one a little bit. So I went to the link in that article to the guy being fired. And it says, the reporters contacted this realtor and he's, no comment. But then wanted to add at the end of this text conversation that, by the way, if you need any help buying any real estate in South Florida, let me know.
Did he really go?
Yes. To the reporter, he was like,
a true salesman. Right?
Tell me about your Holocaust denying website and no comment. But by the way, we've got some great properties beachfront.
Oh man, you're not going to see prices like this again.
I guess if you're a QAnon member, you want to buy from your own kind? I don't know.
Yeah. Will my lizard tail fit through this door? Do I have... Yeah, how are the lizard
people? That's funny.
These are the conspiracies that drive our country these days.
Man.
Yeah, no hacks are good, but some.
I've run into a flat earther before in real life. That was fun.
Real life,
but man, I kind of would be interested in talking with a lizard person, believer. You
added the word believer. I was like, I'd love to talk to a lizard person as well.
Person exists. You can contact me directly.
But, yeah, they know how to contact you. You don't need to tell them.
I'm sure.
Yeah, they're contacting right now. Yeah. All right, want to let you know about some webinars coming up. Our next one is actually today, Thursday, October 7th, Protecting Against Mobile Security Threats in a Bring Your Own Device Environment with Victoria Mosby. She is helping us out with that one. Mike Roderick is joining as well. But don't worry, if you have missed that already, we will put that up on our archive. It should be up on October 8th, and so you'll be able to check that out over at itpro.tv/webinars. That's also where you can go to sign up for that one or any future webinars. We got one coming up for Halloween. I think it's the 28th.
Spooky.
And I may or may not have purchased my costume for it yesterday. I'll show you guys after the show. Well, you're going to have to wait or check out itpro.tv/webinars.
Come as a lizard person.
Come as a lizard person, yeah. I'm actually taking off my mask, my human mask, and we'll be doing that.
Quick, cut off his arm, see if it grows back.
I'm going to go home and watch V.
This is that's like the, see if she's a witch by drowning her.
Well, it looks like she wasn't a witch.
Yeah, well, it looks like you're not a reptile, and I'm sorry about your arm. But
only one way to be sure.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I understand. Also want you to go over to technado.com, and you can see all the latest episodes, subscribe, and you can contact us. Let us know if there is a topic you'd like us to cover. We've really appreciated in the last few weeks. We've had a bunch of people send in different articles that we've been able to choose from, and we'll send you a Technado shirt if you do that. There's also a big button up in the corner that says sponsored by ITProTV. Click on that and get a 30% off coupon code for the lifetime of your ITProTV personal membership. You can also request a team trial. We're talking today about how cool the new Pro Portal is, and that is one of the great features available for teams as well. So check that out. Go to technado.com and click that big orange ITProTV button in the corner. All right, guys, great show today. We had 2 guests. We haven't done that in a while. We had Greg, Lauren, and a lizard person.
Crazy.
Yeah. Been here the whole time.
Been here the whole time.
Yeah, they're always with us in your heart, right in
That's
here.
Right.
All right, and Don, will we have you next week?
Yes, I'll be here next week. Not the following week though.
You didn't upper inflect at the end of that. So
I had to think about it. I got a calendar.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, that's exciting. 3 in a row. Yeah. All right, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.